today we're headed on and we're gonna show you our checklist of what we do to get going in the mornings or whenever we leave.
We generally kind of divide things up where I take care of putting everything up that's outside and Victoria handles what's inside.
Yeah, it's a pretty good system, and our ultimate goal here is to be rolling with nothing damaged in the inside or outside of the Airstream.
Yeah, there's a lot to do before you get rolling to make sure that everything's put away properly. You've got like all your stabilizers up, all your awnings pinned down, stuff like that. So we'll walk you through all of that, show you what we do, and so far we haven't managed to break anything having this checklist.
So the most important first thing in the morning is of course coffee. But once we get ready to go, we take everything off this counter, we put this down. We get a lot of questions about our knife block, and actually all of the knives except our chef knife stay up. So we just take this one out and put it in a case and put it in a drawer. Cutting boards go in the closet, and then big old Berkey here, she goes in the sink. Because we've had a couple instances where if we leave it combined like this, the top part flips out, but we actually just condense it and put it in the sink.
Wipe it, wipe it, wipe it down, wipe it. Is that how it goes?
Yeah, that's how it goes.
Taking care of the outside is pretty straightforward. We don't really have a whole lot of stuff out here. So just gotta clean up this table, this grill, all these chairs, and the mat. So a lot of that is just knocking off all the dust that we usually accumulate. So I've got my rag here, just gonna wipe everything down, and then we'll get it put away. I think a lot of RVs have this, but our Airstream has this really cool quick connection for the propane. And so we've got a propane line that just runs from here out to the grill. We had to buy an aftermarket propane line that's I think 15 feet long, which is nice because we can sort of position our grill wherever we want, but we just had to make sure we had the right connections on either end. So you got to get the right male side on the trailer end, and then you have to have the right female connection on the grill side. And it varies from grill to grill, so just look up your grill specifications and then you can find something like that. We bought ours on Amazon, but I know Ace usually carries stuff like that too. It's like everything else, these chairs are covered in dust, so I'm gonna beat them out and try to knock some of that off. So now that I've got these knocked off, we're gonna put them up here in the topper, along with paddle boards. What are we doing?
We're sweeping with this. Why, you ask? Because our broom broke and we haven't bit the bullet on a vacuum. So we probably should buy a vacuum, but
that's what we got.
It's so dusty in here. So everything's pretty much put up and clean. We don't normally always deep clean our camper every time we move, but we've been in a sandstorm for the past 3 days and there was just dust literally everywhere. So it feels really good to pull into a new spot and just have it be clean and ready to rumble. So really quickly, for some safety things, we go through and make sure that every cabinet is closed, especially this one. This one has a tendency to fly open if it's not closed, and normally a microwave goes here, and when we had the microwave in here, we had one incident where this flew open, microwave fell on the ground. Thank God there was no damage. That's really important. Another thing we like to do is make sure all the vents and fans are closed. So I can hear this one's running right now if you want to come on back. So just come in here, turn it off, close it down, good to go. This is another door that could potentially shatter if it opens and it's swinging around, so just go ahead and boop, make sure that's all good to go as well.
And make sure your shower drain plug is in as well. That'll help prevent gray tank odors from coming in.
One of the most important things we also like to do before we roll on the inside is just make sure that all of these, what do you call these?
Latches.
Latches are totally closed. So we've heard of some horror stories where somebody forgets to close their window and they're going down the highway and this window starts flapping, you don't notice it, and it totally shatters. And Airstreams are kind of like German cars where all the little parts on them are really expensive to replace if it's coming from Airstream. So don't do that. Make sure your latches are closed and that everything's buttoned up before you hit the road.
with so many little things that you have to make sure are in order, it's really easy to forget one of them. And every one of them is important. So it really helps to have a good checklist and get in a good habit of just slowly walking through before you start moving. So we'll also post a checklist in the description that you can use to build your own checklist, and just make sure you're running through that every time you get moving. One thing I like to do is just, it sounds silly, but if you go through and touch everything that you need to check, it kind of helps slow you down and connect your brain with everything that you need to do to get out of there.
One other thing is we've come in here where all these paper towels are just down. So we like to go ahead and make sure that that doesn't happen. We like our paper towel rolls. It goes there.
The last thing we like to do inside before we roll out and we're done, you know, using the toilet, using the sinks and all that, is turn off the water pump. And that is really important, because if you're driving and you've got the water pump on, it's like a magnitude 4 or 5 earthquake back here, depending on what kind of roads you're on. So you could easily have a pipe connection that could separate, and if your water pump is on, it's gonna try to keep that pressure up, and so your water pump will just run and run and run until the water tank is empty. So you could come back here and have 40 gallons of water in your trailer. So always turn off the water pump before you get going.
And then, what's the saying? Look up, down, all around, right?
Yep, so we're gonna go do that right now. We're gonna go get the outside ready to go. Victoria's getting ready to pull up all the stabilizer jacks, and it's really important that you do these before you use the tongue jack, because if you start using the tongue jack, it's going to be pushing one end of the trailer up or down, and that could ruin your stabilizers. And believe it or not, we've seen people pull away with their stabilizers still down and rip them off their trailer. So make sure you get these things.
When we first got our camper, we had it parked outside of our house, and we were brand new to trailer life, and we started pulling the jack up, and the jack felt like there was a little too much resistance going on, and I heard a creak, and I was like, oh no. And luckily we did no damage. But you do it once, and man, you won't do it again, I promise.
Yeah. So next step here is we're going to put our weight distribution bars on. These help level the truck out and get more weight onto the front axle, so it's not all on the back axle. It makes the truck drive a lot better. So it's pretty simple to get these in. Just put into the receiver side here, and then we set our chains up, and you can count the links so that every single time you're doing the same sort of setup. So we do 7 links because these are pretty stiff bars. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Stick it in there. And then got my tool here, and just tighten it up like that. So this is a lot easier to do if you've still got the tongue of the trailer raised up. So we get it hitched in there, but then we keep it up because as you lower it, it's putting more weight into those bars. And once you're doing that, it's a lot harder to get those links in there and tighten it up. So let's go to the other side. we're all done with that. Now the last step is we need to raise the jack back up, take out the jack stand there, and then we'll take the chocks out and we'll be ready to ride. So as with everything else, we want to double check what we're doing here before we get moving. Especially critical is all of our connections here between the truck and the trailer. So this is one thing where Victoria and I like to check each other. So one person will hook everything up and then the other person will go in and double check it. So what we're looking for here is making sure that these are securely fastened to the truck. These are emergency chains, so if this were to come detached, the chains would still keep the truck and the trailer together. So you want to check that on both sides. Again, I like to touch it. It's that physical and visual reference to make sure I'm looking at everything. So check that on both sides. And then over here, you always want to make sure that your emergency brake cable is attached as well. So one end is attached to the truck and the other end is attached to your trailer. So if this connection was to break here, this is shorter than these chains and your emergency brakes would engage. So always make sure you've got that. We like to make sure that our pin is securely fastened in there. We've had friends that, and we've seen it on YouTube as well, where this pin will come out and the whole hitch will actually come out of the truck and the trailer will go with it. So you don't want that. And then you want to make sure that your coupler lock is securely fastened. You can either feel or also visually look under here just to make sure that it's securely on the ball there. All right, that's everything here. We've got our electrical cable connected, so we'll check our lights here in a minute, but we're gonna put this bucket away and we'll be good to go. Last thing before we get on the road is I'm gonna do the final walk around. Again, we're gonna look up, down, and around the trailer just to make sure that nothing has found its way under the trailer. There's no tree branches that we forgot about. Everything's locked, tied down, and we don't have anything still hooked up to our trailer. Now we're boondocking here, but obviously you don't want to pull away with your electrical cable or your sewer hoses or anything like that connected still. Just looking under the trailer here, we've got all of our stabilizers up. We don't have any rocks or anything under the tires. We've got our chocks out. That's always the last thing we do once we've got everything connected to the truck and the truck's securing the trailer. So let's go this way. We've got our shower door and our water. This is all locked up. You know, sewer connections are all disconnected. Everything's closed up. We're just looking here, kind of a visual inspection of the tires. We'll check the tire pressure with our monitor in the truck, but you know, we just want to make sure that everything looks good there. Keep going this way. Again, we put our awning away earlier, so that's all hooked up and everything looks good up on the roof. Coming around the back here, everything's secure, the awning's put away. We're done inside, so we'll put our steps up. And I always like to just lock the door. That has a double purpose. One, we just confirm that it's latched, then two, if anything were to happen with the latch on the road, that lock would just help make sure that the door stays closed. Don't have the door flying open and all our stuff spewing around on the highway. That'd be terrible. So same thing over here, we're just looking at the awning, looking at our tires, making sure everything looks good there. Looking under the trailer, I don't see anything in the way there. No rocks, no doggy poop bags, nothing like that. Some people I know, they like to leave their fridge on when they're driving. We're a little scarred because when we first picked the trailer up, we had our propane canisters come off the trailer because they weren't properly secured. So that's kind of a 1 in a million chance, but we just like to turn off the propane to make sure that we don't have any gas being able to, you know, leak out while we're driving. We just come in here, turn this off. And then on Airstreams and a lot of other trailers too, you just want to make sure that this connection here is really tight. That's what keeps this whole assembly tightened down to the trailer and keeps your propane from falling off while you're driving.
That's what wasn't on for us, because this trailer had been stationary for, I guess, a couple years. Lady was kind of living in it, and we drove off our first time driving a trailer in the propane. The cap fell off, and then the propane canisters were underneath the trailer dragging. So we're a little traumatized from that, so we just turned the propane off.
Okay, last thing, I'm gonna get in the truck and hit the lights, and Victoria's gonna go to the back of the trailer and just make sure the turn signals and the blinkers all work.
Okay, so I know it might seem kind of intimidating with all these little steps you have to do to get going, and at first it kind of is, which is why it's really important to have a list. When we first started, we actually had a physical list we put in our glove box, and when we got in the truck, we made sure everything was done, because as you pull away, there's a lot of damage you can do. But I promise you, it gets easier. You know, get into the routine of it, and it becomes like second nature. So get a list when you're first starting out, and then just make sure you look up, down, left, and right before you get going, and don't rush. That's the biggest thing too.
Okay, that's it. That's how we get back on the road and make sure that we're doing it in a way where we're not breaking anything and we're taking good care of our camper. So as you can see, we're not in Utah anymore. We're up here in Washington, getting ready to spend a few weeks up here doing some awesome hiking, mountain biking in the PNW. We're feeling a little parched with the desert and a little tired of the dust, so we decided it was time for a change. So if you found this video helpful, definitely go ahead and hit the like button and let us know what you liked in the comments. And again, the link to our checklist is in the description, so go check that out, and that should be helpful for you creating your own checklist, or just use that one if it fits your needs. And don't forget to subscribe. We're going to be, of course, bringing you more videos like this, and also showing you some epic mountain biking, hiking, maybe even some paddle boarding up here in the PNW. See you soon.